Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryan karava vahai, tejasvinavadhi tamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Jaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Excuse me. Good. Welcome back. Yeah, the snow actually reflects light and washes out the screen. That's why they're closing the windows. Good. We are making our way through the Udyoga Parva, which is the portion, the book of the Mahabharata. Yeah, the back window should also be closed, I think. It's a portion of the Mahabharata immediately before the war takes place. And we've come to the section called Vidura Niti. Vidura Niti, the word may be familiar to you. This is a portion of the Mahabharata, of the Udyoga Parva. There's a portion of the Udyoga Parva that's often taught independently. Just as the Bhagavad Gita is taught independently, other sections like the Sanat Sujatiya are taught independently. In the same way, this Vidura Niti is often taught independently because it stands on its own merits because of the teachings contained therein. So the Bhagavad Gita is excerpted not because of its story, but because of its spiritual teachings. Similarly, the section called Sanat Sujatiya is excerpted and taught independently because of its teachings in a similar way. This Vidura Niti is often excerpted and taught independently from the Mahabharata because it has some wonderful, profound teachings taught obviously by Vidura. We'll see in just a minute. Each of these books are composed of a number of subsections, which are also called parvas. And this Vidura Niti comes in a section called Prajagara Parva. Prajagara. Jagara means being awake. Prajagara means really being awake. And specifically, it means being awake when you'd rather be asleep. Sleeplessness. And in particular, and this really describes the setting of the Vidura Niti, has to do with sleeplessness, in particular, King Dhritarashtra's sleeplessness. Did you ever lose sleep because of some problems going on in your life and family, etc.? Do you think Dhritarashtra has any problems going on? His kingdom is going to war. His sons are out on the battlefield, and he has a suspicion they're all going to be slaughtered. Vyasa has already told him that all of his kings are going to die, all of his sons are going to die. And not only that, and we'll discuss this from place to place, Dhritarashtra must have a lot of misgivings because he's made a lot of errors in judgment which have led up to the war. And he's not unintelligent. He knows he's made these errors in judgment. Of course, the errors in judgment were made because of his emotional commitment to his son Duryodhana. We'll talk about some of that as we go ahead. But he's also... So in addition to his worries about his family, his worries about his kingdom, he's also feeling guilty and perhaps having a lot of self-doubt. So plenty of reasons for him to have some insomnia. In fact, Prajagara could be translated as insomnia. All right. But the introduction is quite simple. We'll just plunge in and get started. All of this, of course, is narrated by Vyasa's disciple, Rishi Vaishampayana, He's reciting this. Vaishampayano vacha, Vaishampayano dvastham praha mahapragno, dvastham praha maha Dhritarashtra mahipatihi, Dhritarashtra Viduram drashtum ichchami, Viduram drashtum Tamihanaya machiram. In the second line, King Dhritarashtra, who is Mahipatihi. Mahi is earth. Mahipatihi, king. So King Dhritarashtra, who is in the first line called Mahapragnaha, the very wise one. Of course, wisdom can be misdirected. There's later, I don't think we may or may not get there today, there's a brilliant verse about how a powerful intellect, when misdirected, causes such harm. That comes a little later in this chapter. But recognize, King Dhritarashtra is acknowledged as being extremely wise. The errors he has committed are not due to lack of wisdom. So he is, in spite of his wisdom, he makes errors, which is one of the reasons we're studying this chapter and learning from the mistakes of King Dhritarashtra, just as King Dhritarashtra, in spite of his wisdom, made errors due to his raga dvesha, emotional attachment to his son. In the same way, all of us are susceptible. In spite of our wisdom, we're susceptible to making similar errors. So, Mahapragnaha, that wise king, praha, he said to who? Dvastham. The one standing at your doorway is dvastham, means servant. And what did he say to the servant? He said, Viduram drashtum ichchami. Ichchami, I want, drashtum, to see, Viduram. Viduram, of course, was his younger half-brother. Again, not brother exactly, half-brother, we'll say. I want to see brother and minister, an advisor to King Dhritarashtra. Tam iha anaya. He addresses his servant. He says, Anaya, bring tam him. Bring him iha, here. Machiram, immediately, without any delay, bring Vidura here. Tata pravishya Viduro, tata pravishya Vidura. Dhritarashtra niveshanam, Dhritarashtra Abravit pranjalir vakyam, abravit pranjalir chintayanam naradhipam, chintayanam. Tataha, later, Viduraha, pravishya, having entered what? Dhritarashtra niveshanam, his room, his chambers. Vidura, having arrived at Dhritarashtra's chambers. And Vidura is described here as pranjalihi. Anjali, or pranjali, is that prayerful expression. So, Vidura, with his hands folded. Hands folded, why? Well, he's addressing elder brother and the king. So, with much respect. And Vidura also being the very respectful sort of person. So with his hands folded, abravit vakyam, he said the following statement, Chintayanam naradhipam. He said it to Nara Adhipam, this king, the king of men, the king of the kingdom. He said it to the king who was Chintayanam. You can guess the meaning of that. The very anxious, worried king. And this dialogue takes place in the middle of the night. So in the middle of the night, King Dhritarashtra, laying sleeplessly in his bed, he asks his servant to go and fetch Vidura, who presumably Vidura is sleeping nicely, so he's woken from his sleep and he comes. Vidura vacha, Vidura. Viduroham mahapragnya, Viduroham sampraptastava shasanat, sampraptastava yadi kincha Yadi kinchana kartavyam, yadi kinchana. Ayam asmi prashadhitmam, ayam asmi prashadhitmam. So Vidura says, Viduraha aham mahaprajna. Mahaprajna, O wise one, he addresses the king. O wise one, aham Viduraha. Why does he announce himself by name, I am Vidura? Remember, King Dhritarashtra is blind, and the king heard someone come, but can't identify who has come until they speak. So Vidura introduces himself, aham Viduraha, and sampraptaha tava shasanat. Tava shasanat, because of receiving sampraptaha, I have received tava shasanat. I have received your orders. I have come because I have received your instructions, your orders that I should come. Yadi kinchana kartavyam. Yadi, if kinchana, anything, kartavyam, if there's anything that needs to be done, if there's any way that I can help you, I am asmi. I am here, I am ready to do anything to help you. Prashadhimam, tell me what you want, tell me how I can help you. Dhritarashtra vacha, Dhritarashtra, Jagrato dahyamanasya, Jagrato dahyam, Shreyo yadiha pashyasi, Shreyo tad bruhi tvam hinastata, tad bruhi tvam hinastata, dharmartha kushalo hyasi, dharmartha. So King Dhritarashtra says in the second line, Yat iha pashyasi Shreyas. Shreyas pashyasi. Could be yadiha, I think. Yadiha or yadiha, either way. He says to Vidura, first he identifies himself. Jagrataha dahyamanasya. For me, Dhritarashtra says, for me who am jagrataha, awake. Remember, this dialogue takes place probably 2 o'clock in the morning. So for me, jagrataha, for me, lying here awake, dahyamanasya, burning, agitated, tortured, literally burning. So his mind is so caught up in anxiety and worry and distress and fear and guilt and all of that, that he feels himself being dahyamana, literally being burnt, but the sense is being tortured by his own thoughts. Jagrataha, being completely awake in spite of the fact that it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Dahyamanasya, for me, Dhritarashtra says, who I'm being tormented by my thoughts. For me, yat Shreyas, whatever is beneficial, whatever is best, whatever is helpful, yat iha pashyasi, O Vidura, whatever you see, whatever you know that is beneficial, tad bruhi tvam. Tvam, you, Vidura, tad bruhi, tell me. Tell me whatever you know, Vidura, that can help me in me who am afflicted with my tortuous thoughts and sleeplessness and insomnia. Whatever you know that might help me, please tell that to me. Why? Because Tata, O dear one, Naha, for us, it's kind of the royal we. For us means for me. For me, dharmartha kushalahi asi. Asi, you are kushalaha, extremely skilled in dharma and artha. Dharma, righteousness, artha. This is a reference to 2 of the 4 purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And he addresses Vidura as being somebody who is very learned in dharma, righteousness, and artha, taking care of business, so to speak, acquisition of whatever is required to live a comfortable life. And there's actually an underlying reason he addresses Vidura in this way. What is keeping Dhritarashtra awake? We can separate his problems into two categories. One is he's worried about his family and his kingdom. So the war is about to take place. He's already been warned by Vyasa that he's going to lose the war. And he's just stricken with fear and regret and worry, thinking of what could and will happen on that battlefield. So one concern is about his family and kingdom. The other concern, of course, is that his own actions have led to this war. As I said in the introduction, his mistakes, his errors in judgment. Being very wise, he knows, if you allow me to use some American English, he knows that he blew it. He knows that in a moment, in not a moment, in many moments of weakness, he yielded to his very willful son, Duryodhana. He gave in when he shouldn't have given in. And because of his weakness, because of his excessive attachment to his son Duryodhana, he made concession after concession after concession, which gradually led to the unfoldment of the war. And as I said, Dhritarashtra knows he blew it. So imagine the guilt he must feel, especially if he's anticipating that he's going to lose the kingdom and his family members are going to die in a battlefield. Imagine the terrible guilt he must feel. Before we proceed, a comment about why the Vidura Niti is studied. Do you ever suffer from these problems? Fear about family and guilt over mistakes you've made, and maybe you've even lost sleep because of fear of family, etc., and guilt about mistakes you've made. So Vidura's teachings, instructions, are meant to help Dhritarashtra overcome his fear and overcome his guilt and, frankly, get a good night's sleep is the purpose. So if these teachings at Vidura can help Dhritarashtra in such an extreme situation, if these teachings can help him in that extreme situation, then how much these teachings can help all of us. Just to illustrate why this Vidura Niti is studied independently. Now the connection I wanted to make for you, Dharmartha Kushalaha. So Vidura is an expert in artha, matters of home and family and kingdom. And that is one of the two areas of concern for Dhritarashtra. He's worried about his family and kingdom. And Vidura is an expert in artha, so maybe Vidura can have some words of wisdom with regard to his family and kingdom. Secondly, Dhritarashtra is ridden with guilt and regret, etc., which are matters of dharma. And he's hoping that Vidura can share some words of wisdom with regard to dharma. So Vidura, being the dharma, artha, kushalaha, skilled in matters of dharma and artha, can give that kind of advice to King Dhritarashtra, which he so dearly wants. So what is Vidura's initial response? Viduruvacha, Vidura, abhiyuktam balavata, abhiyuktam bala, durbalam hina sadhanam, durbalam hina, hritaswam kaminam choram, hritaswam kaminam, Avishanti prajagaraha, avishanti prajagaraha. Look at the last line. Prajagaraha is sleeplessness, and it's also the title of this subsection, this Parva, which is part of the Udyoga Parva book. He said that there are certain people who are prajagaraha, plural. They are sleepless. They suffer from insomnia. Here, avishanti prajagaraha. Certain people enter into insomnia, means suffer insomnia. So who is it that suffers from insomnia? And Vidura is going to give a list of 6 kinds of people who suffer from insomnia. Who suffers from insomnia? At the top, abhiyuktam balavata. Anyone who is abhiyuktam, attacked. Balavata, by the strong. So someone who is under attack will suffer from insomnia. This is a lot of very general psychological wisdom. If you feel threatened by anything, doesn't that disturb sleep? Now, you're not going to be attacked by an army, but just to give a kind of an example, suppose, I hope not, but suppose someone launches a lawsuit against you. A lawsuit is kind of an attack. And if there's a lawsuit hanging over your head, you might worry about it, you might lose sleep over it, especially if the one who's launched the lawsuit is balavata. If they're very strong, if they have a lot of money and powerful attorneys, you're in trouble. So you feel attacked, you feel worried, and you lose sleep. Another reason you might lose sleep is if someone is durbalam, weak. So someone who is very weak might feel easily threatened and fearful and may lose sleep. So someone who's durbalam, weak, might suffer from sleeplessness. Also, hina sadhanam. Hina, without. Sadhana means here means. Somebody who's without means someone who's helpless. Hina sadhanam here in the context means a helpless person. Certainly feeling helpless creates that sense of discomfort which can deprive one of sleep. Also, hrita swam. Somebody who's, here swam means personal possessions. Somebody whose personal possessions have been hrita, robbed away. Hrita swam, somebody who has been robbed, deprived of what belongs to you, is hrita swam. That can lead to sleeplessness. Also, someone who is kaminam, filled with desires, unfulfilled desires. Someone who has very strong desires. You can imagine laying in bed, plotting and coming up with all kinds of ways in which you will fulfill your desires. Someone who's so driven by desires that their desires keep them awake at night. And a final one, very interestingly, Vidura asks, to the list of the people who suffer from insomnia, choram, thieves. Why would a thief suffer from insomnia? Kind of obvious, right? They're always afraid of being caught. So, you committed the robbery yesterday, but they might come for you tonight. You don't know. While you're laying there in bed, they might come for you. So, who knows? So, chora, for a thief, they might also suffer from insomnia. Now, Vidura is saying, so Dhritarashtra complains of sleeplessness. Vidura is functioning a little bit here like the family physician. And, the patient is complaining of sleeplessness. And Dr. Vidura is analyzing the illness. And he says, well, there are several reasons for sleeplessness. Let's find out which reason for sleeplessness is afflicting you. Dhritarashtra. Could it be that you are abhiyuktam balavata? Could it be that you are under attack by somebody who's stronger than you? Yes. Could it be that you are balavat, that you are durbalam, that you are weak? He is weak. Could it be that you are hina sadhanam, that you are helpless? He is. Dhritarashtra is helpless. Could it be that you are hrita swam, you've been robbed of your possessions? Not yet. He's going to lose his kingdom, but not quite yet. Could it be that he is kaminam, filled with desire, his desire for his son? His whole thinking got distorted because of his kama, his desire, his attachment for his son Duryodhana. The only one that doesn't apply, choram, so he's no thief. But of these 6 reasons for sleeplessness, it looks like 5 of them seem to apply to the poor king, sleepless king, Dhritarashtra. Vidura continues. Kachadetar mahadoshar, kachadetar mahado, nasprishto sinaradhipa, nasprishto sinarad, kachanna paravitteshu, kachanna paravit, gridhyan viparitapyase, gridhyan viparitapyase. Vidura concludes. He says, Kachad, so it makes it into a question. Kachat etaihi mahadoshaihi kat na sprishtaha asi naradhipa. Nara adhipa, O king. Kachat, I'll just loosely translate, I hope. Kachat, I hope. Na sprishtaha asi. I hope that you are not touched. I hope that you are not affected by etaihi, by these mahadoshaihi, by these terrible afflictions. I hope that none of these terrible afflictions have affected you. What are the terrible afflictions? The 6 different reasons for sleeplessness mentioned in the prior verse. And in a prior verse, we've already observed that 5 of the 6 afflictions do seem to apply to King Dhritarashtra. But Vidura says, I hope none of these have affected you, O king. Kachan na paravitteshu gridhyan. He says, Kachan, I hope also, na gridhyan, I hope you are not longing for, gridhyan, I hope you are not longing for paravitteshu, the wealth of others. I hope that you are not longing for the wealth of others. Of course, King Dhritarashtra wants to win the battle. He wants to take the half of the kingdom that belongs rightfully to the Pandavas. He wants it for himself. He wants it for his son, Duryodhana. So in fact, King Dhritarashtra is afflicted by this gridha. Gridha means greed. Gridhyana. Vidura says, I hope you're not greedy for the wealth of others. And viparitapsyase, I hope this is not nice expression. Viparitapsyase, I hope you are not being afflicted. Literally being heated. The word, the verb tup. In just an interesting observation, the Sanskrit root tup means to heat, and it also means to afflict. Not surprising in a semi-tropical country like India, where heat becomes an affliction when it's in the 40s. You are afflicted by that heat. So the root tup, which means to heat, also means to afflict. So Vidura says, I hope you are not heated by these problems. And the sense is, I hope you are not afflicted by these problems. Of course, Vidura knows very well that the king, his elder half-brother, is indeed afflicted by all of these problems. King Dhritarashtra responds, Dhritarashruvacha, Dhritarashruva, Shrotum ichhami te dharmyam, Shrotum ichhami te param, param naishreyasam vachaha, param naishreyasam, asmin rajarshi vamshehi, asmin rajarshi vamshe, tvameka prajna sammataha, tvameka prajna sammataha. So the king says, Shrotum ichhami, ichhami, I want, Shrotum, to hear, excuse me, I want to hear, te, from you. I want to hear from you, param dharmyam. I want to hear from you that which is param, that which is most dharmyam, that which is most righteous, that vachaha, that's those teachings which are param dharmyam, of absolute righteousness, and naishreyasam, which lead to the maximum benefit. I want to hear from you, Vidura, that which can bless me in the greatest extent. Now, remember, he is tortured by his mind, by his thoughts, worried about his family and kingdom, also tortured by his guilt and self-doubt. So he wants... Sometimes it's interesting what isn't said. We have to kind of read between the lines. Notice what Dhritarashtra is asking for is words of wisdom, but notice what he's not asking for. The king is not asking for a way to avoid the war. It's very easy to understand. This is extremely important. He's not asking for some way to avoid the terrible war because the king has already given up and he's already assumed that the war is inevitable no matter what. He's not even trying to avoid the war at this point. He's accepted this war as an inevitability. He's given up. And that's really significant. So, when he's turning to Vidura, his extremely wise half-brother, he's looking for advice, but he's not looking for advice on how to avoid the war. Sadly, he's looking instead... Now, you could be a little cynical here, and if you were extremely cynical, he is basically asking Vidura to give him some mental relief so he can get a good night's sleep. So from a cynical point of view, Vidura becomes like a sleeping aid for the king Dhritarashtra in the most cynical view. In a less cynical view, King Dhritarashtra would like to be blessed by the wisdom of his brother. And of course that wisdom is for the sake of putting his mind at ease sufficiently so that he can go to sleep. So he wants Shrotum ichhami, I want to hear, te dharmyam param nishreyasam vachaha, I want to hear from you teachings which can bless me, put me at ease, and put me to sleep. He says, Asmin rajarshi vamshe, he, because Asmin rajarshi vamshe, amongst the lineage of rajarshis, of royal sages, amongst in the entire lineage of royal sages, Tvam ekaha, you alone, prajna sammataha, everyone agrees that you alone are wise. In the lineage of royal sages, there is complete agreement that Vidura is wise. With regard to others, some people will say wise, some people will say otherwise, to use Pujya Swamiji's joke. But in the case of Vidura, everyone agrees that Vidura is the wise one. Therefore, he's the good source of advice for the troubled king. Vidura vacha, yasya krityam na vignanti, yasya krityam na vignanti, shitam ushnam bhayam ratihi, shitam ushnam bhayam samriddhira samriddhirva, samriddhira samriddhir, savai pandita uchyate, savai. Okay, so Vidura's teachings begin with this verse, and it's a little tricky. First of all, as I said, there's a cynical interpretation and a less cynical interpretation. The cynical interpretation is that Vidura's job is to distract King Dhritarashtra from his worries. So the cynical interpretation is that Vidura is going to tell him a lot of stuff, like telling a story to a child, but at an adult level to distract King Dhritarashtra from his troubles. But at a less cynical level, Vidura has an opportunity to address the underlying reason because of which King Dhritarashtra is so miserable. Now, what we're going to see in just a moment as we see Vidura's teachings is his teachings are extremely Vedantic, which is not so surprising because what other solution is there to Dhritarashtra's problems? The mistakes have already been committed. And the fact is that the war is about to take place, and there's nothing that can be done at this point in time to prevent the war from taking place. So what could possibly remove the suffering of King Dhritarashtra? He's fearful and sad that his sons, 100 sons, are going to die on the battlefield. Nothing can be done about that. Nothing can be done at this point. The time to act and change things has passed. The window of opportunity has shut. So nothing more can be done. His 100 sons are going to die on the battlefield. What can you do to comfort him? And if you'll allow me to, an issue many of us deal with, when a family member is dying and you want to give comfort to someone in the family, so suppose, I'll put it in the first person. Many times people come to me, Swamiji, my father, my mother is sick, they're dying. And what kind of advice to give to a person? Their family member, their beloved family member is dying. And here's a mistake some people make. I don't think you would make this mistake. And a mistake that's commonly made is, maybe they'll recover. With God's grace, anything can happen, a miracle can happen, and they can recover. Do you really think that's good advice? If they're dying, and their death is inevitable, the poor mother or father is 95 years old. They're dying. And if you were to give advice, maybe they'll probably recover. They're very pious, and God is very merciful, and God can do all miracles, and medical care is there, and this and that. You start making all these arguments for why they don't have to worry about their beloved family member because their beloved family member can recover. Would you agree that's pretty bad advice? They're dying. So then how will you comfort a person if you can't say, yes, they're going to die? That's not very comforting. So how to give a person comfort knowing that their mother or father is about to die. There's no psychological solution to that problem. There's no topical advice you can give. There's no amount of comfort and encouragement that you can give that can make that problem go away. Pujya Swamiji was famous for saying, in psychology, there's no solution, but in Vedanta, there's no problem. And that is the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is to discover how it is that there truly is no problem. That was, in fact, Sri Krishna's instruction to Arjuna in the beginning of chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is also upset. Arjuna is having an emotional meltdown on the battlefield. He is so upset. And what is Sri Krishna's advice? He says, hey, why are you grieving for them? Because no one's going to die. That's it. I'm summarizing in very broad terms, you know that. But the basic message to Arjuna is, if no one's going to die, why are you grieving? Now, note what is being taught here is a radical shift of perspective. Absolutely, the bodies are going to die. The mother or father's body is going to die. The warriors on the battlefield, their bodies are going to fall on that battlefield. When Sri Krishna gives us advice, what is he teaching? The essence of who the person is unborn, unchanging, and therefore undying. This is the Vedantic perspective in which you discover there's no problem. It's a radical shift of perspective, a radical shift away from our identification with the body and mind, and a radical shift towards identification with the consciousness, which is the essence of who you are. Now, there's a lot of Vedanta here. I don't think this is the right time to get into. Can be the rest of the class. We want to stay a little bit closer to the text. But the general point here is, if Vidura really wants to help King Dhritarashtra, merely saying some kind words doesn't make the problem go away. Kind words like, you've heard this way too many times. Somebody is really in bad shape. Again, mother or father is in a hospital dying, and the common expression, the common advice is, don't worry, sab theek ho jayega. Everything will be fine. No, it won't. They're dying. That kind of advice, I'm sorry for repeating myself, is well intended, but it is so off the mark. If somebody's parents are dying, how dare you say, sab theek ho jayega? It's an insult to the person. So what is the solution? At a psychological level, there is no solution. There is no amount of support and love you could give to make that person's hurt go away. You give them a hug. Give them a big hug. Give them an even bigger hug. What can you do? It's not going to change the inevitability of the death of their loved one. The only solution, and I'm almost hesitant to use the word only, but it fits here. The only solution is to shift your perspective, to recognize that the death of the body is inevitable and it's okay. It's not a problem because the essence of who the person is utterly unaffected by illness and death. Satchidananda Atma is utterly unaffected by illness and death. And it's this perspective and this perspective alone that can solve a problem that is otherwise unsolvable. So this is Vidura's task now, is to convey this wisdom to the king Dhritarashtra. Before we see the details, one last comment, and we'll see this from time to time, and that is Vidura has been involved in the whole complex sequence of events leading up to the war, which means Vidura has stood witness to all of the mistakes his elder brother has made. And this is really tricky. Some of you have been in this situation. A family elder has made mistakes. What do? Really tricky, right? You want to put them on the right track, but you can't just say it so directly. So you have to say it in some more subtle ways. You'll see Vidura doing that as we proceed. He wants to put his elder brother on the right track, but he has to do it in a very subtle way. We'll see some of that. So anyway, that's enough introduction. So the actual Vidura Niti. I should explain the word. The word Niti, the literal meaning of Niti is rule. Vidura Niti means then, in this context, Niti means teachings. So Vidura Niti are the teachings of Vidura to King Dhritarashtra. And again, it's not advice, it's not comfort, it's not it's not sabti ko jayega, it's profound. Some of it is some profound spiritual teachings because there's no other solution. So let's see how he begins. He begins, Yasya na nibadnanti. Yasya, for one who is vignanti. Na vignanti. Someone who is not troubled. Na vignanti. For a person who is untroubled, na vignanti, who's untroubled by all kinds of things. For a person who's untroubled, actually, to get the sense of this, look at the last line. Saha vai panditata uchyate. Saha. Such a person, panditaha uchyate. Such a person is called wise. So who is really wise? And there's actually a connection. Remember in the prior verse, Dhritarashtra tells in the very end, he says, Tvameka prajna sammataha. Everyone considers you to be wise. You alone are universally considered to be prajna, to be really wise. And it looks like Vidura seizes on that, and he's going to talk about wisdom. Who is really wise? What does it mean to be wise? Sahavai panditaha uchyate. A person is called wise, yasya, one for whom na vignanti, a person who is untroubled by all kinds of things. A person who's untroubled by krityam, duties and responsibilities. To be untroubled by duties and responsibilities doesn't mean to ignore them. To be untroubled means to accept those responsibilities and duties as a natural part of life, and to be ready to deal with those responsibilities without any resentment or regret. It's just part of life. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. It's what you do. In the same way, dealing with krityam, your responsibilities, is the same. Does it trouble you to brush your teeth in the morning? I hope not. Because it's just something to be done. So suppose everything, even the unpleasant tasks, suppose you've got a really difficult project at work. It might be possible to feel some sense of resentment. Why am I stuck with this project? Why can't he do it? Is the common thing. Why do I have to do it? And you get some anger, some resentment about that. So here, why not accept it as just a normal part of life? You brush your teeth in the morning and you have to deal with this unpleasant work. Okay, you deal with it. Na vignanti, the person is untroubled by that responsibility. A person who is untroubled by shitam ushnam. Obviously, you are untroubled by shitam. Cold. So we got cold, snowy weather outside, and it didn't trouble you in the sense that it didn't prevent you from coming to class. I see a few of our students were a little more troubled, and it's fine. They chose to avoid coming, and that's absolutely fine. So a person who is truly wise is untroubled by shitam ushnam, by heat and cold. A person is untroubled by bhayam, fear, ratihi, desire. What is he saying here? How can you be untroubled by heat and cold and fear? Well, this goes back to our basic discussion. There's no way you can toughen yourself up to such an extent that you're immune to cold and heat. There's no way to be free from fear if you're driving down the road and somebody is just driving crazy. In fact, it's good. You should feel fear because that fear will help you stay away from this crazy driver. There's no way to avoid the experience of cold and heat and fear. But notice the expression Vidura uses very nicely. He says that the wise person is na vignanti, is not afflicted by these. It's possible to feel cold and not be afflicted. It's possible to feel hot and not be afflicted. What is the difference? So you can to feel cold is a sensation. What is the affliction part? Oh, it's so cold. Why is it so cold? Why didn't they turn up the heat? Or why is the weather like this? People like to complain. In fact, I have to share with you a story Puja Swami Tadatmananda loved to tell. I don't know where he got this story. There was some lady on a train complaining to her husband. They ran out of water. And this lady is complaining. Maybe he was on the train and saw this. This is entirely possible. Let's assume he was as a young man. He used to travel on the train, so let's assume that he observed this wife complaining to her husband. Oh, I'm so thirsty! I'm so thirsty! I'm so thirsty! They ran out of water, and the next stop has not yet come. She's complaining and complaining. Finally, they reach that next stop. He gets down on the platform. He gets some bottles of water. He gets back on the train, gives them to the wife. Train pulls away, she drinks all this water, and she says, I was so thirsty. I was so thirsty. She's still complaining. After drinking the water, she's still complaining. Well, it shows that this problem has two levels. One is a purely physiological sensation of thirst. But there's a second level. And the second is not a physiological level, it's a psychological level. And specifically, let's define it really precisely. It is to resent the presence of a physical sensation. We're talking about cold and heat right now. To resent the presence of cold and heat, or better put, to want it to be other than what it is, to want something to be different from what it is a kind of resistance. It's a rejection of reality. The reality outside is it's cold and snowy. That's a fact. But to reject the reality by saying or feeling or thinking, I wish it weren't snowing, I wish it weren't so cold, I wish it wasn't so cold, I wish it wasn't so hot. This is a second level. It's a psychological level. Specifically, it's our response to a physical sensation. Cold and heat are physical sensations, but our response to the cold and heat can make it so much worse. Our response need not make it worse. Suppose we can simply accept, okay, it's cold. Okay, it's hot. Nothing can be done. Let it be cold, let it be hot. In this way, Panditaha, the wise ones, na vignanti, they're not disturbed by these sensations, nor by bhaya, fear. There are plenty of things to be feared, like these crazy drivers on the road. Fine. You avoid it, you deal with it, and not make it. You can just imagine this same lady who was so thirsty. Imagine she's in the car. So the husband skillfully avoided that crazy driver, and 10 miles later, she's still complaining about that bad driver. We get stuck holding on in our minds to these problems. We mentally grasp these problems, and the problems become ours. This is the problem. So, the wise one is one who na vignanti. Those wise ones are not troubled by bhayam, by fear, by rati, by desire, by samriddhihi, asamriddhihi, samriddhi, wealth, asamriddhi, the absence of wealth, poverty. So here Vidura opens his teaching by saying that those who are truly wise are unafflicted by all these worldly problems. He did not say they don't experience these worldly problems. They do. A wise person does experience all worldly problems without being afflicted. How can you remain unafflicted in the presence of all these problems? There's no shortcut. You can't fake it. The ultimate solution is the Vedantic solution, and it's to recognize, there's 2 minutes of pure Vedanta right now. The ultimate solution is to recognize your true nature as, let's get real here. The consciousness by which you know what's happening right now, the consciousness by which you know what's happening in your mind, the consciousness because of which you know what's happening around you in the room, that consciousness you'd identify as yourself. You are that consciousness. You are that consciousness, a consciousness which you generally consider to be something ordinary because it's with you all the time. You're conscious right now when you go home, you're conscious when you're at home, etc. And this consciousness, which is present in your experience right now, is generally understood as something very ordinary. The teachings of Vedanta are that the consciousness that's present right now is not at all ordinary. It's extraordinary. And extraordinary in, there are many aspects. Let's just take one. The consciousness present in your experience right now is unchanging. Let's work on this one point. Just to understand Vidura's teachings, we have to understand this point. The consciousness by which you know what's happening in your mind and what's happening in the room, that consciousness is utterly unchanging. How do we know that to be so? In order to witness your changing mind, don't you have to be the unchanging observer? If you changed along with your mind, if your mind became sad, and you, the observer, simultaneously became sad, how would you know that you became sad? In order to perceive the sadness coming in your mind, you should be the unchanging observer of the sadness entering your mind. The sadness belongs to your mind. The sadness does not belong to you. You are the unchanging observer and witness of whatever is happening in your mind and what is ever happening outside of you in the world. This principle of being unchanging is crucial in the teachings of Vedanta, because if the essence of who you are is unchanging, please tell me, what can afflict you? Body can be afflicted, absolutely. Mind can be afflicted, absolutely. What can afflict the consciousness present right now in this experience, the consciousness by which you know what you're thinking? What can afflict that consciousness? If you get it, you understand that your consciousness being unchanging is impervious to any kind of affliction. The body is subject to affliction. The mind is subject to affliction. You are not subject to affliction. The term we use in Sanskrit to describe this is asangaha. Asanga, it's hard to get the right English word for this. Unconnected, asangaha. Unrelated, unaffected. Unaffected by anything that goes on. To discover, and you've heard me use this language before, to discover that you are okay no matter what. The body gets ill, the mind gets whatever its problems are, but to know that you, as that unchanging conscious observer, you are okay no matter what. According to Vidura, this is what makes you a pandita. Pandita here doesn't just mean wise or scholarly. It means enlightened here. To be enlightened is to recognize your true nature as that unchanging consciousness, utterly unaffected by whatever happens to the body and mind. This is the solution to the unsolvable problem. What is the unsolvable problem? Our loved ones are going to die, our bodies are going to age and become diseased, and our minds are going to suffer various afflictions. There are no solutions to these problems. These problems are unsolvable. What is the solution to the unsolvable problem is to discover that you are that unchanging consciousness, utterly unaffected by any of this. This is what Vidura is just beginning to teach in this very wonderful Vidura Niti. We'll return to this in our next class next week. Okay, a couple of quick announcements. Tomorrow, Sunday, we have our program for teenagers at 11 o'clock. 5 p.m., our mindful movement and meditation session. 6:15, satsang question answer. I'll take your questions at 6:15 tomorrow. Library will be open after class. We'll conclude with our prayers. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.